Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Greetings all. Tom writes, hey Aaron, sure, here's the request. I had him have him resend it. Sometimes if my email, just in case you guys were wondering, at Asshole Consulting, sometimes it's not that thorough, so you can always send me another email at capitalism@yahoo.com, and as well as instances where you didn't get. So he resent it to me. Here's the request. Create a short video on how the below trends will affect the future of the sexual marketplace, artificial wombs, sex robots, incels dropping out of the sexual marketplace, VR porn, genetic engineering. Thanks, Tom. All right. Well, let's take a look. How do I want to do it? Let's do it all. We'll do an overall approach first, and I'll address them individually because they will slightly affect it. In general, though, none of these things are going to have an effect on the sexual marketplace because the large revolutions or technological revolutions that have resulted in sexual marketplace revolution or evolution or changes, they've already been in place and in play, and those changes have already happened. And that is largely social media, the digital internets, and their interwebs. And it has had different effects, drastic effects, on men and women. I would say the more dramatic of the two has definitely affected women, where women can now get instantaneous attention. I didn't believe it until a friend of mine set up a dating profile, and in a day, had over 100 requests and responses. And she's pretty, but she's not drop dead. I mean, and they were legit. Like, hey, look at. I'm like, what the fuck? Was this what it's like to be a woman? Hey, praise me. And apparently it is. And so now with the Facebook and the Instagram and all that, in the olden days you were kind of relegated. In the olden days you were relegated to this tribe, and if you went too far away from the tribe, the other tribe would get you, and then you're a slave or you're killed. So you had a very limited selection, and not too long ago, okay, well, you're in this town, and there's the little town function at the square, and Jebediah Johnson he's a nice man, and he comes from good side, his family, and you might want to meet him over at the ice cream social, if it was even ice cream invented at that time. Now it's the world is your oyster. I mean, as long as you got an internet connection, you can get attention from men. And so women's expectations and demands and standards for men have gone drastically up to the point it's impossible. And there's different studies and things that we've found. I think OkCupid came out with a Bell distribution curve of what men, based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 through 10, would respond to girls 1 through 10. And it was equally distributed. Ones would chase after ones, 2 would chase after 2s, 3 would, or higher. Women, and remember, you had a population of men. Women, when they ranked men on a scale of 1 to 10, rated 80% of the men unattractive. Now you have to understand that. You say, well, how are 80% of men unattractive? You can't have 80% of the men unattractive. Half have to be attractive, maybe not the most beautiful things in the world, and the other half have to be unattractive. I mean, to be literal. Right? It would be 50-50. You would say, well, half those guys are in, these guys are attractive. 10s are obviously more attractive than 6s, but 6 is still attractive, 4 is not. 5 right down the middle. Women were taking 4, 5, 6, and they're calling them under 5s. So you could see this delusion where women, they're only interested in the top 20% of men. This is all women. This was also reconfirmed by a study. Again, don't know where it is. I saw it one time. They had 100 guys and 100 girls, and you were to rate who you would sleep with or who you would find attractive. And again, that 80-20 rule more or less came in. The ones matched up according to guys. Guys were very egalitarian with that. They knew they were a 3. They go 3 or higher. Women, they were only interested in, I think 80% of the women were only interested in sleeping with 20% of the guys. So you had women who were 3s and 4s saying, I'm only sleeping with the 8s and higher. And I know the MGTOWs, and we're going to be incels, we're dropping out, and we're going to go on a marriage strike. And marriage strike has happened. There's a difference between sex and marriage. There has been a marriage strike. Men are proposing less. There's cohabitation more. Men are proposing later in life, if at all. A lot of guys, if they're not going to have kids, they're not going to get married. They're right here. I see no reason to involve the government in my personal affairs. So there is a marriage strike going on. But in terms of sex in the sexual marketplace, I know you guys would like to think you're winning. You're not. You're not. These girls don't even know you exist. And this is evidenced by, what was it? Another study showing, everyone likes to talk about the wall. Yes, alpha males are not going to be marrying a 42-year-old woman with 3 kids from 5 different fathers. Don't worry, the math works out. But there is a 50-year-old man with 2 other kids that will. So there is a ton of thirst. A ton. We may be woke here in the alternative media. You may be aware, 100% right in the red pill manosphere community. But this is such a small percentage of the male total. The vast majority of men are betas. Even my conservative friends, I'm like, what happened? What? It's scary when you see how far the rot has gone. I've thought guys were like, right there, and I'm like, what? Your wife told you to do what? And you did? What? So yes, you may be woke. You may be aware. You may have self-respect and some standards. But for every one of you, there's got to be at least 500, maybe even 1,000 men that will approach women, ply them with attention, and not just here in the United States, but overseas as well. So these things that you're listing are only going to affect a small group of men. They're going to go ghost. But for every one of you guys, there are hundreds. I almost guarantee you hundreds. How do you measure the red pill community? I don't know. But there are hundreds for every one of you of these guys who will just throw their lives away, chase after the poon, do whatever. It's sad. The thirst is real. And it's sad, it's depressing, it's just like, that's why I enjoyed The Decline. Read that book, Enjoy the Decline, great book. So, since these trends, the internet and access to more people and all that, so that's how it affected women. Men are just getting porn. They're just staying indoors. And you mentioned that virtual reality porn. Well, okay, how is it? So what? Beforehand, and that already existed many years ago, beforehand you get Playboy or, what was the other one? Penthouse. Now, then you had the internet, even in my day when I was in my teens and 20s. And now you have high definition video. What's the next evolution? Virtual reality porn? Okay, fine. It's porn version 4.0 or whatever we're up to now. That's always been there in some capacity or another. And yes, more men have been going to porn. More men have been, not even porn, but just living an alternative life. World of Warcraft, going online, living in alternative realities. I can totally see that. But because it's such a small minority of the population, and women are getting more attention than they ever have before, albeit in a digital format, not in a real format, it's not gonna. You guys are already so far apart. Supply is not meeting demand. It's a white market. This market doesn't exist. It's not a cleared market. It's a market that doesn't exist. The buyers and sellers are just too far apart on price. So now they're this far apart. They're not even coming up close. You're saying, well, what if men go this way a little bit and women go away this way? There's still no connection point. Right? There's still nothing going to be happening. So these technological innovations are already in place. We can maybe say it just turns up the volume to 11 as bandwidth and resolution improves. But men and women have found substitute goods for each other. Men are going into porn. Women are going into attention on the internet. Women will still get men in the real world, but it'll be on their terms because they just get so much more attention. However, I will admit that their expectations are way too high. So divorce hasn't gone down, just the boomers. Divorces, they say, I'm not happy. A lot of women will postpone marriage and finding a guy until it's, quote, too late, maybe for having kids, but they'll be in their 40s. You know, their career's all set and all that. And then they'll finally find a guy who's in his 50s. He'll settle down with them, and that. But it won't be, you know, a really cool alpha guy that they always really deep down inside wanted. But they'll find a guy. So all it is the effects macro environment is people are getting married later. Girls will find more men as they're older. Men are, again, the red pill or alternative community is not big enough to have an effect on demand for women. It's been more than offset by the international, internet, interstate. You know, heck, you know, in the old days, you never traveled to D.C. It's just a place you heard about, you know, when you were in Kentucky. So now they got way more demand for them. And they're deluded and they're brainwashed and conditioned. I have to have my career, so they push that onto the floor, they get divorced. I don't think pair bonding's gone. That's wiped out. And then you got more men than you did before living in their own world. So let's talk about the individual things. Artificial wombs. If it comes about, men can start having their own kids and their own genetic material. How is that going to affect the sexual marketplace? Less demand for women in that small segment. The supplicant beta boys and white knights are still going to outrank it. So it's not going to have an effect on female marriage rates. Sex robots. That if you can get a true Stepford housewife, okay. The freaky ass shit that I see nowadays, like what in fuck's name? That is not going to come across. It just isn't. But if you can get like they're walking, like the movie Surrogates, where you can't tell the difference, okay. That would be a truly, then guys would be gone because they're like, what? I can't tell the difference, feel or touch. The only way is like talking to them. I think guys then because guys are going to be like, let me see, something that's effectively a woman and does exactly what I say. All right, and I could have 5 of them. They're not going to get jealous and be like, bad. So that, but I don't think that's going to be attainable. I really don't. I just don't see it. I don't see how you can make, I don't care what amazing rubber is coming out, you're not going to feel like a human flesh. It's not going to be human. Incels dropping out of the sexual marketplace. Incels are never part of the sexual marketplace. They don't have sex. They're fat, they're whiners, they're crying. No, girl. Incels. Involuntary celibate. Okay, I remember what it was. Involuntary? Yeah, it means you never hit the gym. I can understand if, like, you were born deformed. Okay, but no, it's the same thing with girls. Underneath every fat girl is a cute girl trying to get out. It's just whether, the fat girl's going to go to the gym or not. Don't tell me you're involuntary celibate, you didn't go to the gym. But to get back to the economic analogy, incels were never part of the sexual marketplace. You weren't participants. Nobody wanted you. Virtual reality porn, again, that'll just be porn version 4.0. You'll get guys to watch it more and like, okay, your wife would get, fat or something. Like, I can jerk off or I can put this thing on and holy shit, looks really real. That'll ruin more relationships, but I don't think it's going to have an effect on the sexual market. Again, girls are, for every one of you, there's 500 out there. And genetic engineering, I don't see how that's going to affect the sexual. If you could get people to look beautiful, then there's going to be a new standard of beauty, right? And I don't care what you say. I mean, you can program somebody to be predisposed to have muscles and look muscular, but you still have to work out. You still have to diet. You can't just sit there. There's not going to be this thing where you can just sit on a Slurpee and all of a sudden you look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1978. But I do know from an economic standpoint that if everybody looks beautiful, then no one's going to be beautiful. There will be new standards. I mean, think about the olden days where cavemen, could you imagine how nasty girls were down there back in the caveman day? They still banged them. I mean, guys will take what they get. And then, imagine you grabbed, a young Anne Margaret and showed her in front of a caveman. I don't even know if the caveman would know that that's beautiful because it's so further removed, so much more beautiful than the cave woman. You may not even know, might even be scared. But now it's, or you take an average, gal without makeup and put it in front of the caveman. The caveman would think that's the most beautiful thing in the world, but now we'd look at that and that's just plain Jane. So I don't think genetic engineering would, because genetic engineering would scale both of the sexes up. And I can totally see feminists saying, no, we don't want genetic engineering. You can't do it. Who knows what they're going to do. So anyway, yeah, these are all cute things for people in that small little community. But it's not going to have effect on the macro sex market or sexual marketplace. Because the people who are watching this video or who are in the red pill community and all that, they're just not big enough of a percentage of the population. So it's cute and academic. I'm sure some people will be happier, with a virtual reality porn than an actual woman. But you gotta go. Here's another look at it this way. In terms of billions of dollars, how much money is spent on People magazine and gossip and who married who and weddings? All right, look at all that traditional stuff, and then compare it to how many books everybody in the red pill community sells, and it shows you just how small this population is. I don't believe for a second we're not right. There's a lot of value in things that are true that need to be said, but I have no delusions that we are certainly not a majority of the population. And heck, I'm not even this incel MGTOW community type. I do like women, and I do not want to replace them with robots or things. They're just too fun. All right, that's it. You guys got questions? Cappy's got answers over at assholeconsulting.com. We'll see you guys later. Tools.